everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today this is a video sped up 4 times fast and voiced over that is mostly a recording of the live stream show on Art Joy of Sharing livestream channel that happens every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. That's on a different channel, link in the description box below. So what we did on the live stream today was to play with alcohol inks, and I am showing in this video which things that I did. We could do a month's worth of shows on different techniques using alcohol ink. They are so versatile and so vibrant and bright and really a lot of fun to play with. The very oldest technique that I know that came out ages ago, I don't even know how long ago, what was the original Adirondack alcohol inks and this applicator that you can replace the pad with felt pieces. So it's like a felt applicator, and you squeeze some of the inks onto the felt applicator and then you just apply them to the paper. The paper I'm using for this is glossy cardstock. So it's a white coated paper, and then the second one there that you see in the picture is black coated paper, just black glossy cardstock, but yet those two pieces look so similar. I do have some of the Pinata inks from Jacquard that are new to me, and I will link those, that package of them that you saw at the very beginning, in the description box below, where I bought them off of Amazon. They were a really good deal. Hopefully the deal is still there. They come with a white and a black and a gold, which are colors that I've never played with in alcohol ink. So that one right there was on gold glossy cardstock. We were talking about the different types of papers that you can use, and these are all coated cardstocks. The gold one might be called foil paper, but it doesn't really have any foil in it. And you can use these inks on any sort of a non-porous smooth surface. So these gloss type cardstocks that are out there in the world really work well for this. So then I was showing you the same colors that I used on that piece of gold cardstock on a piece of the white glossy cardstock to show you how different they are, but yet they're both beautiful. And I was using a twisting motion to apply those. So that is applying ink with a felt pad, and that was the first thing that I did because it's old. It's been around forever. So then the next thing we were talking about was other types of things you can use, and Peg was doing some dominoes. So I got out my little pack of teeny tiny dominoes. I make these independents using some wire wrapping, and I just put some of that ink, that Pinata ink that was left over on my felt pad onto that little tiny domino, and then I ended up stamping it later on. I wasn't on the live show very much. when I edited this, I realized that I really wasn't on screen very much today, so these things kind of jump around. But then we were talking about UPO paper, which is a type of paper that came out for professional watercolors, and it works fantastic with alcohol inks. And a fun thing to do with it, and you've seen this before, is this dropping technique of just dropping drips onto the UPO paper in different colors and letting them bloom and spread. I was also showing a couple different types of sizes of straws and what the effect is when you blow the ink before it gets dry. You can blow it a little bit, make it splatter. Also, Peg was using a compressed air can, which probably works better than me blowing, since I was getting pretty lightheaded between the alcohol smell and the blowing through the straw. So those are the ones for dropping. And some of all these things that I made today were card front sized, so that I can eventually make them into cards. And in some of the pictures you'll see some of the very, very simple cards that I made. This technique is where you take a background that you've already made and you stamp on it using archival ink from Ranger, and it will react with the alcohol, and you can remove the ink underneath by rubbing it off with a soft cloth. and it's a very cool, interesting technique. I really liked it. So then the next thing I was talking about was painting with alcohol inks, painting or drawing or doodling with alcohol inks. And I have this very inexpensive plastic palette from Walmart, and I dripped different colors into the little reservoirs and let them dry. And in this way, you can take your alcohol ink with you if you're traveling, or you can, of course, use it at home. And all this extra space on the palette, it's great for blending colors. So if you put just some basic colors in there, you can do a lot of fun things with that. Now, the brush that I have is filled up. It's a water tank brush, but it's filled up with 91% isopropyl alcohol. That's sometimes also called surgical spirits. And in some places you can get even up to 99%, but I get 91% and put it in the water tank brush. When I'm done with it, I squirt it out and rinse it out so that I don't, the solvent in the alcohol doesn't ruin the tips of the brushes. But I can use that as the water and pick up the colors of dried alcohol ink with it and then paint onto this Yupo paper. You can also do it on glossy cardstock. So that's what I was doing, was making a weird little dreamscape that was fun to do. And you can see the Yupo paper lets everything bloom, and so it doesn't look like a watercolor. It's a different effect, but similar. And I was also talking about how on my little domino, after I've stamped it with a little tiny butterfly, I can use that brush to clean up or clean off some of the alcohol. And that kind of prompted me to go to the next thing, which is to take a background and my brush with the alcohol in it and doodle on it and remove or lighten some of the alcohol ink off of the glossy cardstock. Sometimes it takes more than one application to get it light enough. This is obviously super, super dark piece. That was indigo and eggplant and colors like that. And then I got out an artist brush and I soaked it in the alcohol and did it through a stencil and lightened up that area that way. So that worked really well, but then I tried it again with a different stencil and it didn't work quite as well. Didn't come up as nicely. And I think the reason why is because this particular background had a bunch of the gold. It was the Jacquard inks, and it had a bunch of the gold. And I think it works better with the Ranger or the Adirondack inks because it didn't lighten up as much. It wasn't as a dramatic effect as the other one. So I ended up later on going over the whole stencil with gold paint and covering up that background that didn't lighten up as much as I wanted because I wasn't sure what to do with it at that point. It's like, meh. It kind of did it, but it kind of didn't. You can see there. And I think it was the combination of, oh, but I made a really interesting background paper here with this, my deli paper. By cleaning up the stencil using that same sponge, I got that pattern all over my deli paper, which will be fun to use in collage. So let's see, what was the next thing? I think I was still wondering what to do with that. And it's still lightning, and maybe I should have just left it alone. I guess I decided to go back and doodle. And then off camera, after the show, after Peg and I were just talking, I doodled this piece with a gold Posca pen and kind of highlighted all those shapes, and you will see that one somewhere. This one, I was trying out the PBO copper pen, paint pen that I have. It must be acrylic because it's not stinky. And it's a copper color. You know, I like copper. And I think then we just kind of showed our pieces. So then that was only about 8 minutes by the time I sped this up. So that obviously shows that in an hour and a half, I was only on camera for 30 minutes of that hour and a half. And so I decided to show you what I had done before the show started. I wanted some alcohol-based spray inks. I've never had any, and I thought that these would be permanent for mixed media, and I could mix them up myself. And so I'm using a combination of the Ranger alcohol inks and then also archival ink pad refills in some of the cases. And I bought this little set. I'll link it in the description box below at Amazon that has these little spray bottles. Also has a couple pipettes and a couple funnels to use with them. So it was a photography supply, but I'm not sure why, because I don't develop pictures or whatever. But anyway, it wasn't expensive. And then I also had some labels that I bought to do some gel printing on, which I haven't got around to it. So I cut those up to make labels. So what I'm doing is filling up the bottle 3/4 of the way with the 91% isopropyl alcohol or surgical spirits, and then picking a color to put in it, and then writing that color on the label, testing it on some of my glossy cardstock, and then just continuing to add more color if I think it's too pale. Obviously, the colors that I'm getting in the sprays would have to have a heck of a lot more drops in them than I put to make them anything other than pretty much a pastel color, because, you know, it's light. They're lighter because it's diluted so much by the alcohol. But I just like the idea of having these sprays that I can spray that the color won't run or anything, and I can use them in mixed media. So I ended up making 8 of them, and then I have 2 bottles that are still not, there's no color in them. At some point, I started to mix different colors together. I got out the archival ink refills, and I was using some of those, and then I darkened up some of the other colors with the refills. I thought the archival ink refills took less drops than the regular alcohol ink, so they must have more pigment in them in order to refill into an ink pad, or maybe it's the formulation, I'm not sure. But this was a lot of fun. I don't know if any of you would want to do this or not, but hey, why not some more spray inks? It's not like I already have a bazillion spray inks, but most of my spray inks are water soluble, so I don't enjoy using them in mixed media as much because I'm constantly putting layers on, and if you're putting a layer over something that's water soluble, it smears. So that's constantly a thought process. And so I got some of the media sprays from Marabou, and those are pretty fun. They're acrylic and they don't run. And I have a few acrylic sprays from DecoArt, but the predominance of the spray inks that I have are water soluble, and those would be Tattered Angels and Dilutions, all those ones. So I already have a ton of inks. Why am I making more? It's just because I wanted to try out an alcohol-based ink in a spray, and that's the reason that I did it. Also because Peg did it first, so I wanted to copy her. So I think this one, I don't know if I've gotten, no, this isn't it yet. I end up darkening this one up with a different color at some point. And I use these backgrounds in the little cards I was making as well. As far as the cards go, I have a few new thin dies. And the reason that I do is because I saw them on Amazon and they were coming from Japan or something. So they were super cheap, like a die set with flowers and leaves for like $3. And I thought, are these worth it? You know, are they going to work? They'll take a long time to get here because they're coming from overseas, but they're so cheap that I'm going to try it. So I ordered a few different die sets, and I mean, literally $2, $3 each. They're not great. As I tried them out today, I would not say that they're wonderful, but I don't use dies that often, so I do really want a set of words that is a nice set of dies. That would be nice, like that has thank you and congratulations and things like that. I ordered one of the cheapy ones, and they don't cut as well as some of my more expensive dies that I have. So I will warn you that you get what you pay for, just like always. This is the color that I really liked the best of the ones that I made today. I didn't have much time to do this, so I will play with it some more, but that is the Garden Patina Archival Ink Refill. It's a very, very nice turquoise color, which I thought was super pretty. And I used it with the yellow spray that I made, which I think is sunflower, maybe sunflower. Also on the little labels, I don't think that I mentioned it, but I am writing how many drops I put in. I was actually counting the amount of drops as I went through and saying how many I put in there. This is where I'm starting to darken this one up because I realized I had two colors that were pretty turquoisey, and so I'm using this sailboat blue, I think, or maybe indigo. It's indigo, that's what it is. I put the indigo in with this other turquoise one to make a darker, more vibrant blue so that I wouldn't have two turquoises. You can tell the colors that I like. They're the ones that, I wasn't thinking really hard about what colors do I need. I was just pulling colors that I know I like, and that's how I ended up with two turquoises. So there's kind of a few of them. I end up making a gray because I like to have a dark gray spray. I do have one in the Marabou Art Spray, Mixed Media Art Spray, which is an acrylic. What I did to make the gray is I used some of the watering can refill and some of the slate gray alcohol ink. And it's not dark enough. And I'm darkening it up some more. And I'm just keeping track of how many drops I put in there so that if I ever did run out of it and I wanted to duplicate it, if I suddenly fall in love with these so much that I use up the whole, I don't know, these are probably 1 ounce or 2 ounce bottles. Probably only 1 ounce maybe. They're small little bottles that I would be able to duplicate what I did sometime in the future. But anyway, that is what was for today, alcohol ink play. And I think after I tell you guys to, oh yeah, I darkened up the green. That was lettuce. Lettuce alcohol ink is a really pretty color. But I darkened it up with leaf green archival ink refill and made it a little bit darker color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I still think I'm making 2 more maybe. I don't know. The eggplant one was really pretty. That's kind of almost like a grayish purple. It's a pretty color. Anyway, if you liked this video, it's like getting off track and there's a butterfly. You know how that is. I get off track. If you like this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment or question below if you had a question about any of this stuff. Obviously, not all the alcohol ink things that there are in the world, but maybe some that you might not have seen before. I'm not sure. And of course, if you want to watch the whole thing along with what Peg made, which she did some different stuff than I did, you can watch the recorded version of the live stream over on Art Joy Sharing Livestream channel, which is where we have a live stream every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So that's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.